Welcome to DT Fae Podcast. I'm Cait.
I'm Elle, and today we're kicking off our Crown of Midnight deep dive with chapters 1 through 8.
If you're joining us for the first time, our completed Throne of Glass Book 1, Crescent City Books 1 through 3, and House of the Dragon Season 2 episodes are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
But also, feel free to jump in with us today as we start Crown of Midnight. We're keeping the episodes series spoiler-free, not discussing beyond the chapters that we're covering.
We will be discussing connections to the Massverse, so Akatar and Crescent City, but I'll try to give warnings just in case you haven't read. But like we've said, so much of the fun is like connecting it with the other series in the Massverse.
We'll also try not to give too many hints like ahead for things that are coming.
I know I have a few like put a pin in that, but I'm trying not to be too
too obvious about it.
Let's start with this week's book rec, which is something you read that I've been seeing all over Book Talk.
Yes. So the recommendation I'm giving today is the Fae Alchemy series by Callie Hart, and book 1 is called Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
The book is set, I guess we'd call it, in the human world where all magic has been stamped out as best they can.
Sounds familiar.
I know. It's kind of a weird parallel to start with. If you show signs of magic, you're immediately taken care of. I mean,
like killed, taken care of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, if you lie to the guards, they'll also kill you. Like, it's kind of, they're very brutal.
Yeah.
It's also really strange that magic isn't allowed, but the queen, who is supposedly human, is immortal and undying.
Okay.
But doesn't have magic, allegedly.
Interesting. Is she stealing everyone's magic?
No, not that I know of yet.
Okay. That's what's happening in A Court This Cruel and Lovely. I'm on the second book, and it's like the king is human, but he has everyone else's magic.
Yeah, we don't, like, as the story starts, she's going to go to another realm. So I'm hoping, because there's only one book out at the moment, that we'll get more backstory, because I'm like, this doesn't make enough sense. But yeah, she runs her city is so like, they're aggressive. Like, the city itself is in like a big dust bowl basin in the middle of a desert. So everybody's miserable, and you get like a tiny allotment of water. So they're very concerned about
That's very, not Magic Mike. What is it? Mad Max.
Magic Mike. Not the same.
We had that on the mind because I did get picked to go on stage at Magic Mike. We'll talk about that later.
Yes. Yeah, we certainly will. Yeah, all of that to be said, it's kind of a brutal existence. And then they have these really massive walls between all the different wards in the city. So they're basically keeping the riffraff out. Okay. And of course, they have the worst water rations. Our main character, her name is Ceres. I think that's how you pronounce it. Naturally, she lives in like the poorest ward in the city.
But she's not like other girls?
She
is.
She's more daring than a lot of other girls. Like, she's regularly stealing from the rich. And the story, like, by the way, like, these guardians are so brutal for this city.
It sounds very military, like militant.
Yes, and it's just, they literally have sectioned off people to like let them die. They're like, oh, you're poor, you're starving, too bad, stay out of our area.
Damn.
I know, it's so brutal. But so the story begins because Ceres is stealing, and she's sort of caught by a guardian, and long story short,
a sexy guardian?
No, we don't care about him. But she basically pretends that she's got the plague or something. Yeah. So he'll leave her alone. So he kind of like freaks out and throws his gauntlet at her because he touched her with it. And his gauntlet is covered in like silver and gold, and it's a lot of wealth. And of course, he's stupid to have thrown it away.
Well, I'm also stupid. What's a gauntlet? Is that like the on your arm?
It's like basically like his glove, but it's longer and goes up over to protect his wrists.
Is that why people say like you've thrown the gauntlet or like gauntlet?
Yeah, they pull their gloves off and they're like,
"Oh, okay."
So there,
we're learning
so many things. But yeah, so she takes off running with his gauntlet and starts scaling one of the walls to go back to her ward. And of course, then the guardian like panics. He's like, oh shit, the queen will literally kill me if she finds out that I gave away my gauntlet. Just in general, any kind of stealing from one of the guardians is terrible. So she runs back to her ward. We learn more about her backstory. And then of course, she's hunted down for having stolen from a guardian. I got so excited telling you guys the story that I've lost my place where I was reading through this. Okay. So the guards take her to meet with the queen before they kill her. And the queen assumes that she's working with the Fae. And she's like, what are you talking about? There's no Fae here. You're crazy. Okay. And she's in this really strange...
So humans don't know
Well, like, I think that they know these people once existed, but it's like a fairy tale.
Okay.
But the queen's immortal, so, like, she probably actually knew these people at one
Mhm.
point. We don't know quite how old she is. But she's in a room to be punished, and there's something really strange about the room, and so the queen is a total bitch, and once the queen leaves and she's supposed to be killed, she manages to activate a portal that, like, nobody's been able to activate for, I don't know, centuries, and
Okay.
so this Fae warrior steps through,
Ooh.
and
He's sexy?
he is sexy, and takes her away,
To the
um,
Did she go to the Fae
to
world?
the Fae world, yeah. So
That's our dream, our collective dream.
this portal is literally made of Quicksilver, and
Okay.
it can't be activated unless you're an alchemist. So naturally, we find out that she's an alchemist, and
Are you born an alchemist or is it like
it's
a
like in her
profession?
blood. Yeah. So
Okay.
like it's a type of magic that they can like manipulate metal. And there's more to it, depending on the lore you're looking at. So it's like a combination of like chemistry and magic and like science and magic.
Okay.
But so she doesn't have just like magic, but she does have the magic to communicate with this specific metal,
Mhm.
which is a big deal because once she gets to the Fae realm, she finds out that the queen in her realm had done something to like keep the Quicksilver from working and block off all the portals between realms. So like
Mhm.
all the other realms are like not dying, but they're having much bigger issue because there's no trade
Mhm.
and there's a lot of war. So the king gives
Oh,
her
I
like
thought it was gonna be like those worlds are doing great and they're being kept in this world that sucks.
I mean, the world does suck and it's the queen's fault, but she also blocked others from coming to her world, but that means that others can't leave their own worlds either.
Okay.
And so she gets there and the Fae King is brutal and he's like, "You've got a week to sort this out." So naturally she has to work with that Fae warrior to
Mhm.
figure out how it all works. Um it is very sexy, very
That must be
spicy.
why it's so popular because I've been seeing people talk about it, like, a lot, like, probably more than any other book right now.
Well, it's really nice because she spends pages telling you the details of a sex scene. Like, I don't wanna
Nice.
know that, like, okay, he slid into me and we had a great night. Like, I
Mhm.
wanna hear more detail.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that she describes his breathing, the dirty things he
Oh,
says to her, the way
okay.
he's holding like, I'm like, "Give me the
Yeah,
details." Like,
and I'm not
it's
familiar with that author. So
I
now I'm like, is this her debut, or are there other things that we
I
need to
don't
go
know, I'll
check
need to
out?
look up to see if I've read her before. Sometimes I've, like, read little snippets of different series when they first
Mhm.
get started, but it's really well written and it's very interesting, and, of course, once you're in this Fae world, there's so much more that she uncovers that you're like, "How did that happen? What does that have to do with it?" There's witches, there's vampires,
Oh, okay. I
there's
love, like, a melting pot of different creatures, like the Crossbreed series by Danica Dark that we both love,
Yeah.
like Crescent City, obviously, like, I love it when there's just, like, all these species
Like,
living
I
together.
don't mind if we're just reading, like, a vampire book series, like, that's fine, but it is very fun that it's like, "Oh, there's so much more to it."
Mhm,
Like, we learned that apparently the Fae had been cursed, like, thousands of years ago to be like vampires,
mhm.
and although they no longer require blood or, like
Does he drink blood?
he has
I love
fangs
that, okay.
that, he doesn't have to use, and it's kind of taboo now because they really only do it during
It's even
sex.
better.
But it's like, there's just so many little things that you're like, "God, why is he dirty?" And he's covered in tattoos, and he's a bad boy, and, like, he'll taunt her. Like,
Mhm,
it frustrates it's like kind of enemies to lovers because 'cause he'll taunt
yeah.
her, and she wants him, and she's like, "Oh my god, stop." But it's
That
it's
sounds
so fun
really
to read,
good.
and it's kinda left a bit of a cliffhanger at the end, so I'm like,
Okay.
Where are we going with this? I need to
Yeah, I
know."
remember, like, hearing everyone talk about it, and then I looked up the plot, and I was like, "Okay, it doesn't seem like that different than what we're already reading," which can be a good thing or a bad thing, because
Well,
sometimes
it's
it's like you're reading the same book over and over again, and then
yeah.
sometimes, we like what we like.
It's different in that you're not reading a book and you're like, "Oh, what types of magic do they have here?" And then they go through the different types of magic. Like, it just kind of we don't have to worry about that so much. Like, the
Mhm,
alchemist part, I think, could be anybody. It doesn't have to be human versus fae. There just
mhm,
haven't been any alchemists that have that specific ability.
mhm,
And then, of course, the fae have untold number of powers, and in their realm, there's witches with power. Like, there's so much more that she hasn't even thought to tap into because in her world, she's just trying to survive
mhm.
and get water, so it's very interesting. It's a lot to, like,
Well,
dive into, but
I guess I'll have to
highly
read it. What
recommend.
keywords did you search when you were deciding if you should read it?
Cock. It is.
We have like a list of things that I mean, like if we're going into what we know is going to be a big world building book, I don't necessarily search, but if I know it's going to be like I want this to be my smutty palate cleanser,
Yeah.
I'm key searching a couple of
Well, with the
words.
way everybody loves it, I was like, okay, I think this will be pretty thorough. But I just have questions like, are we going to have spice that's like kind of like, oh, his member and like
Yeah.
vague terms, or like,
Or
are we
when you
doing
search
this?
cock and it like cocky comes up and it's like he comes in acting
He
cocky.
cocked his
You
head.
know that's not what I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
that is not what I asked you. So yeah, highly recommend.
Okay. And that was
So
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver by Callie Hart.
Okay. And there is also some Fourth Wing bonus chapter news. And then I saw It Ends With Us this past weekend.
How was that?
I have a lot of thoughts. And you know what? They're
Okay.
mostly positive.
Really?
I really liked it. I'll wait until the end to get into that.
Okay.
Because I know we've already done the book rec. We want to get into Crown of Midnight. But we'll start with like a very brief recap of Throne of Glass, book
Okay.
1, just in case you've not been with us for this journey.
Or you're tuning in a little late or something.
Yeah. Celaena Sardathian was the bitch, Otterland's assassin, until she was sent to Endovir. That is a slave labor camp, and she was there for 1 year.
Which is where Otterland's crown prince, Dorian Haviliard, and his butt buddy and captain of the guard, Chaol Westfall, curbside picked her up to participate in a tournament to become the king's champion.
During her time at the castle, Celaena becomes close with Nehemia, the princess of Eelway, who we learn at the end is trained in word marks. She has a lot of secrets, too. And she and Ghost Malone, Elena, saves Celaena during the final duel.
On the world building side, magic disappeared 10 years ago. The king and his she and Chaol knockoff, Duke Parrington, have been Christopher Columbusing Aurelia and somehow controlling others like Cain, R.I.P. and Caltaine.
Yes, Caltaine, we've decided.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm working.
We asked all of our friends.
Yeah, I'm working to say it right. It just comes to me differently. Caltaine, who is now in the dungeons.
Celaena's parents were murdered when she was 8. She was found by the unfortunately very attractive Arobin, aka the King of the Assassins, who is basically Aurelia's Abby Lee Miller. Like he's a tyrant, but he also makes you really good at what you do. You know,
that is
you don't become JoJo Siwa without an Abby Lee Miller.
Celaena signs a contract to serve as the king's personal assassin for 4 years, and then she'll be free for the first time in her life.
And even though her and Dorian could have so much sex in 4 years, like think about it. She friend zones Dorian, but she does keep Chaol on her roster. And that's what you missed on Glee. That's like broad strokes.
Yeah. Crown of Midnight opens with Celaena scaling the wall of a darkened manor house.
Celaena is back in her trademark black mask and hood. She's very demure. She's very mindful. She slips into a second floor window of a manor house on the outskirts of Belhaven, the capital city of Finharrow, a kingdom in eastern Aurelia. So it's south of Otterland. At Otterland?
Yeah.
God, I questioned myself.
Got too excited. And we'll be back in Finharrow and Heir of Fire. So keep that one in mind.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't know. I'm through like halfway Heir of Fire in my like reread and outline, and there are things that I'm like, oh fuck, like I completely forgot about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of good details to come. There's just so much good world building.
Sorry, that was my Stanley. It's the loudest sound in the world when it hits something.
Celaena's destination on this trip is Lord Nyral's bedroom, where Nyral's bedroom, where he and his wife are currently asleep.
We don't even really know what this guy did to piss off the king. Celaena's job is to do as she's told, no questions asked. And it's her freedom on the line, so she's taking it very seriously. Not really. It's like
she returns to the fairy tale coated glass castle. She returns to the fairy tale coated glass castle of Rifthold with Dorian after being friend zoned and a heavy sack.
It's wild reading about her coming and going to the castle when the entire book, she was literally in chains in the beginning.
And being followed by guards all the time.
Right. She was confined to the castle. Chaol somehow thought that she was like disemboweling the other competitors, but now she can just come
and eating their organs.
Right. Now she has that title. She can just come and go.
I know. It took a very different turn. Anyway, she walks right up to the king on his glass throne, just as she has the last 3 assignments, and tosses a severed head toward him.
Just imagine the sound a severed head would make as it like bounces across a floor.
Ugh, the thudding and ugh.
Dorian and Chaol are, of course, appalled, and they're both just so shocked of an assassin killing people.
Groundbreaking.
They are every single time they're shocked.
Oh my God, it's her. She's an assassin?
Well, and I hate that in this moment, Dorian and Chaol are probably like, I knew it. I was right about her. You know, like they think she's confirming what they always thought. Like Dorian for him being played by her, and then Chaol for doing what he would consider criminal, even though it's literally for his king. His whole thing is like he'll do anything for his king, and she's doing this for the same guy.
Yeah, but he won't do anything. That's clear. The call's coming from inside the house, Chaol. We also get our first obsidian ring shout out.
The king can barely recognize the lord, the severed head. Celaena's throat tightens, unfortunately, not because she's sucking Dorian off, but because she's hiding something.
She blames severed heads not traveling well and presents the Lord's seal ring as proof.
I mean, that's valid. I don't think a severed head would travel well.
Oh,
You can't just like put it in a cooler like, oh my God, do you remember One Tree Hill where they had that organ transplant?
No.
Did you watch One Tree Hill?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, they're like I think it's like a heart, and they drop it and it rolls out and like a dog grabs it.
Stop it.
That's
oh my
what
God.
comes to mind.
That's wild. Well, we also, when you read books, you don't think about the travel time, but like,
yes, it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, so that's going to be real nasty real fast. As for the Lord's wife, she's chained what's left of her husband. She's at the bottom of the sea, but here's her hand with their golden wedding band.
The king is kind of like, he looks and he's like, whatever, and he just moves on.
Yeah.
There is a growing rebel movement here in Rifthold. Your next assignment is to root it out and dispatch them. And you hear this very ominous statement and you're like, I really hope none of these rebels are very sexy gigolos. Do you remember when we used to, I feel like so many of my conversations, do you remember there was a show called Gigolos?
I love that you don't hold back any of the embarrassing things. You're like, guess what? We used to watch.
Our group of friends.
As a group, we all watched the TV show Gigolos.
In our friend's parents' basement. It was a finished basement. It wasn't too seedy.
It's just all of us in the dark on a couch watching Gigolos. Don't worry about it. Nothing
we
weird
all had
here.
Different gigolos that we like claimed. Like you really liked Jimmy, I think.
I don't remember their names.
It was like the
very. Is the one with the spaghetti tattoo?
No, that was Nick. God, do you even know your gigolos?
Sorry, I forgot. How could I forget? Oh, wow, that's a.
I put it all out there. We loved the show Gigolos, and
we would love to see more.
Now I want to look them up because one of them was like arrested for murder. Do you remember that, Ash?
Yes. Yeah, we don't have to go into that right now.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Fine.
So like back to the king. What are these plans that the rebels are attempting to interfere with?
It's sweatshops full of kids making black rings. The black market of black rings.
Jeez. Chaol and Dorian both look like this is the first that they're hearing of this rebel movement too.
I mean, it's like when Dorian thought that he was standing on business with his dad about not using Nehemia as a hostage, and Chaol didn't even know where the king was for like 90% of the book. It's kind of time to face it that y'all are Nepo babies. You're not really privy to like what's actually going on in the inner circle. Because everything that happens, they're
always shocked.
To them, and they're shocked.
I was considering how many things the king surprises them with. You're like, guys, come on.
But yeah, they're just not. You're not in the inner circle.
They're like Nesta looking in the window at the inner circle.
Oh, that's such a sad visual. That was a very sad part of that book of where she just didn't belong, and probably because of Reese, I would say.
Or wouldn't herself. But
okay.
Well,
also herself. You know what? Also with that book, do you remember? I don't even know if you read the ACOTAR Christmas special. Cassian brings a gift for Nesta and like throws it into the river, like he yeets it out there because he's so upset. I wonder if anyone ever went and got that.
I think it was a nice gift. I think.
Yeah.
But
now
sad.
Now she has the eye egg, the little like thing that holds the music.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I still think Az's gift was better. The reading light.
I mean,
it's very thoughtful.
Yeah, it means that he's paying attention.
Well, I've read that Az and Nesta were originally going to be mates, and then she changed it. So I can totally see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, the king is only giving Celaena one name at a time because apparently the castle is crawling with spies who are probably Nehemia shaped. It's like, who?
Chaol is again shocked. Spies? What spies? You haven't said a word to me.
Chaol hands Celaena a letter, his gloved fingers grazing hers because this YA is YAing. And when you're so desperate for anything, even like a gloved hand graze, you're like, oh shit.
That was a little extra. He didn't have to do, but he did.
Right. And she sees the first name on her to murder list is Archer Finn.
Archer is someone that Celaena knows, and she's known since she was 13 and he took lessons at the Assassin's Keep. Archer is a courtesan, one she had a huge childhood crush on.
It would be like if someone told me I had to kill Nick Carter. Just like anyone from your childhood who you were obsessed with, and I would be like, it's my job, I have to do it, but fuck.
She hasn't seen Archer since before she went to Endovier for obvious reasons, but she's shocked that the king thinks he's a rebel. He's a good time boy, a pink pony girl.
Pink pony girl. So she tells the king she's going to need time to get past Archer's defenses, but really, she just needs time to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, she's taken by surprise. She
He really got her with that one.
The king gives her 1 month, which honestly seems pretty lenient as far as like killing a gigolo, because as Chaol points out later, like, just shoot him.
Yeah.
Just get on a roof and shoot him, because my boss, I would get that assignment. He'd be like, EOD Friday.
Yeah. I mean, like, he kind of asks her to help root out the rebel, but he also is like, just kill him.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Which do you want? Me to like get deep in this, or do you want me to just kill somebody off?
Yeah, it seems like it's just to kill, and then she needs time to figure stuff out, but it seems like he would be asking like, why would you need that much time?
Yeah, but it also seems like he'd be asking for her to do more than just kill him. If you want her to find out more about the rebel movement, then have her investigate it.
Well,
too.
I think he has, other people doing stuff.
He must. We don't know who they are though, neither does Chaol.
No.
After she kills Archer, the king will give Celaena the next name. In the meantime, the payment for Nerol is in her rooms, and she plays the cocky, uncaring assassin everyone assumes she is.
Like, Dorian is assuming she is, and he is so disgusted. Like, he's unable to look at Celaena and his father. He's like, this isn't her. Even if it has been for 2 months and you were introduced to her as Alderlin's assassin.
It's just like, well, the fact that he assumes when she approaches the king with a head that she's going to suddenly be the same girl he's talked to in private. Like, of course she's playing a part. Like, she's not going to like have her guard down. Just the fact that they're both so like surprised. I'm like, hi, this is the game.
It's also not, it's the lack of consent. Like, she was in a slave labor camp. You picked her up. She didn't really have a choice. Forced into this tournament. Now she's forced into 4 years of servitude, and they're judging her for it.
Well, they're like, oh my God, she really is a monster. Hello. Again, I signed a contract. I have to do this if I want freedom. Like, I just.
And then if she ran,
so
Chaol would be like, she signed a contract and ran. You know, like, it doesn't matter what she does, she's going to get judged.
They're just in their feelings a lot.
It is like, she is fighting for her life, and they're like, there's rebel movements. She's in a tournament, and they're like, okay, but do you like me? Or do you like him?
Well, you'll read things from their perspective where it seems like they get what's going on, but like as soon as something happens, they like forget everything they thought of, and they're just like, who is she?
Yeah.
That's not the girl I know.
Exactly.
Anyway, Dorian knows that something is up, but honestly, what is he supposed to think? If she can kill people like that, manipulating him into their situationship should have been nothing. He's not completely giving up on her yet, but for now, he plans to visit her tomorrow and see.
And I do understand why Dorian thinks that, because, I mean, they were spending so much time together during the tournament. And then as soon as she gets her contract, she's like, bye.
Yeah, I
mean, I get it.
She's also very good at putting her mask on. But, like, if you're out killing people, you kind of have to have a mask on to protect yourself. Like, that's brutal.
Celaena walks to the sewer to toss the severed head, but there is a second pair of footsteps. Are you acting like the king's champion, or are you back to being Celaena? Which, again, are those two different people?
But also, the fact that you asked that question to me means you've noticed I'm putting on a mask. So, like, what are you so upset about? It's Chaol notices so much, but he's also still missing so much, But when he heard a rumor that they'd caught the person responsible for killing Nerol, Chaol saddled his horse and was about to go down there and find Celaena himself.
He pulls her against him, something he hasn't done since the day she got the contract. But she smells like really bad, like back to the 2 weeks on the road and severed head. So they skip away from the sinking severed head. But I was a little surprised. I remember the first time I read this, and he was down there, I was like, "Oh,
But the
okay."
way he reached for her, I'm like, did
Well, not
something
just because of the smell, but also just, like, they're still hanging out and they're
I
still
know, but, like,
close.
the fact that he even, like, went to pull her close or, like, pull her against him is a moment of, like, is there more that's happened?
Well, and she doesn't something that I don't think he ever understands is that she doesn't really need saving. She
Mhm.
needs support and she needs understanding. I think she needs someone to see her more than anything, but she doesn't need you to come save her.
Right. Well, and Chaol, based on the life that he's lived, that's what he understands is, like, taking care of people, but he's not really had to do horrible things, so he doesn't understand just getting through it. He's like, "Ooh, let me protect you from
Mhm.
this," and it's like, "I've already experienced worse. Just
I mean, I
support
would
me,"
love
you
that.
know?
Like, you can take care of me, but Celaena doesn't need that.
Right. Well, just, like, see me. That would be
Mhm.
great. But also she's thinking, "Thank God that the king believed her."
And that Chaol didn't doubt her story. I mean, is he known for attention to detail?
The trick is mixing lies with the truth, exactly what Selena has been doing since her first mission 2 months ago. When she got to Sir Carlin's house, she just couldn't do it. But she had to produce a murder scene in a body.
And this is when we find out that she has been DIYing these fake murders. She gives the targets the choice to die or fake their deaths and run. And so far, all four men have chosen escape, obviously.
As for the bodies, she visits sick houses for
Well,
fresh corpses, a lot of whom died from once curable diseases,
like
which is,
me, when I remember I had chicken pox at 26.
yeah, that's an important little hint that, like, if they had still had magic, a lot of people could still be around.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. It's
wild.
well, and it magic has been the propaganda from the king is that it was an affront to the gods, but the majority of magic that we hear about, it was used for healing,
Yeah.
for crops, for all of these really good things that helped people. And but he doesn't want like he wants his people to stay ignorant and poor.
And away from all of it. So, I
Exactly.
mean, they still have healers to an extent,
But it's like
but it's just like like it doesn't even have to be heavy magic, but it could have saved so many people.
right.
But he had them all hanged and burned just in case.
Yeah,
It's
it's
wild.
I mean it is very I think we've talked about this very like Salem.
Yeah.
And s like, we've seen in real life and history, but it's clear she's drawing from, like, a lot of
Yeah. And he made it all very black and white. Like there is no good magic. We're not
yes.
doing magic. It's
Right, he
done.
did, and now what the wildest part to me with the magic is people kinda question that it existed.
Yeah.
Kinda what you were talking about with Quicksilver, like, whether the Fae existed or not, like, they kinda think that way in this series about Fae.
Well, and
It's more of, like, a legend.
I think at least with Quicksilver, it had been far enough back that most people that are living had not I think it was too far back for anybody living to have seen them. So that's why it's like word of mouth. They're like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe." At least it's only been 10 years, so people should have seen the Fae before. They should have
Yeah.
seen magic. It's not so far back, but
That it makes it even crazier.
so many atrocious things happened that they're just
Mhm.
like, "Was that a fever dream?"
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And Celaena doesn't know what to think or really to do about Archer. She doesn't know how she's gonna pull off faking his death because there's no way that there are that attractive corpses just lying around the morgue. You know, like
Yeah.
he's so pretty. There's no way you can just go get a busted
It's
corpse.
also so close to home.
Why exactly? This isn't like a work trip to a convention center in Boise or something. Like this is the king's backyard where this is gonna happen in Rifthold. So there's a lot of complications compared to the first four. Logistically, I think this one's gonna be the hardest.
Yeah, and even more concerning, what are these plans that the king has? He's enslaved an entire continent, so, like, what else could he be doing?
He is gonna girl boss his way over to Winland, a wealthy kingdom across the sea who have held out against his naval attack so far. But what would a rebel group here in Rifthold care about what's going on there? You know? Like
Yeah.
she has all these puzzle pieces, but she doesn't know how they fit together. Or if she even wants them to fit together because again, like she's just trying to survive. She's just trying to get her freedom and so there's always this push and pull of do I want to know? Do I want to find out?
Well, and even then, Winland would be harder to maintain because it is across the sea, so is that a reasonable set of plans? Do we really think that's what he's doing? Like, there's a lot to try to figure out.
Mhm.
That night, Selena dreams of green glowing word marks, the Ritterak Kane, who whispers her name, her true name to her.
And that's when she wakes up grasping the eye of Elena and she's like, "Oh, thank God that's over."
Sure, Jan.
The next morning, Celaena and Nehemia are playing with Fleetfoot in the park. Dawn is really the only time that Celaena gets to see her BFF now, that Nehemia is busy trying to win over Queen Georgina because she's trying to get information about the king's plan for Eelway. Because you forget sometimes that Nehemia has this whole other agenda.
It's not funny, but a small part of me, I'm just like, you really think that this king is going to tell his queen anything?
I know.
They're
She's
living
like
very
watching
separate.
acrobats clapping, like, ooh.
She doesn't want to know,
Yeah.
Interesting
Which I
though.
understand. I don't know if I'd want to know either.
She's happy where she is. Celaena tells Nehemia that the king thinks Archer is part of some secret movement against him that's happening in Rifthold. Surely no one would be that bold, Nehemia says.
I don't know what Nehemia is better at, like word marks or gaslighting.
That's
Because they're.
a great comment. Because facts. Nehemia seems upset that Selena is going to kill everyone on the list and makes her promise to share any of the king's plans that she learns.
Even if, like with Elena and the vague evil, Celaena isn't really even sure she wants to know the king's plans or share them. Especially, no one else knows. Well, first of all, no one knows what Celaena, like what she's actually doing with the people on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that under the breath warning the king gave Celaena about killing Chaol and Nehemia if she stepped out of line. So it would be hard not to look at Nehemia and be like, I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because he said he'd go after you and your family.
I mean, it's still that assumption that she would want to willingly just kill people.
Mhm.
It's kind of hurtful to
It is.
assume that I don't know. It's
If
not
you
like I'm
were
just doing what I'm
arrested for
told.
murder, I would be like, I don't think she did it.
Either that or be like, what did he do?
Yeah, what do you do?
What pushed you to this? It just, it's Nehemia like kind of judging her a little bit for just taking orders, but like, I am not free.
Yeah. I'm not free right now. I know that I can like walk in and out and I've been able to buy some clothes, but
And I mean, maybe there is more she could be doing and maybe she is, but it's also just the assumption that she doesn't care enough, which is hurtful. It's also because of that threat to Nehemia why Celaena is keeping her secret body snatching to herself. Nehemia tells Celaena that the numbers in Calcutta labor camp are growing. Every day, more rebels from Eelway arrive.
and that's the sister camp to Endovir where Celaena was sent after being betrayed, and she spent a year there. So it's also like, well, first of all, every time Nehemia brings that up, you're like, oh yeah, she has so much, like there's so much pressure on Nehemia's shoulders. But you're also like, you don't need to tell me about slave labor camps.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with how terrible it is.
But it's also not like Celaena doesn't care. Like, that's all of it's very traumatic too. So it's not like, don't you care that they're being sent there? I am very familiar with what's happening when they're sent there. It's awful, but it's two different perspectives that you can see both of, but they're not understanding each other well
because
enough,
they're
I
not
think.
communicating, like neither of them are being truthful.
Yeah, they're not being fully honest
So
with each other
can you even
either.
call that a friendship, like really on a deep level? And I think that Celaena is so scared of losing her one friend. She has this blind spot when it comes to, she lets her get away with stuff she wouldn't other people, you know?
Well, it's interesting rereading this because it's not that my opinion of Nehemia changes, but I'm seeing more about their friendship that I didn't necessarily catch the first time around. And, and I mean, I'm seeing more about Celaena too, not in a bad way. I'm just getting a different understanding.
Yeah.
So the other issue is that with the
labor camps.
Yeah, with the rebel forces, not the rebel forces, excuse me, the rebels that are being taken to Calcutta growing, the king won't even meet with Nehemia about the growing numbers.
Because he doesn't care. Like
I know. I mean, the thing is, it's her people. She's kind of an emissary or ambassador, but that's not really how she's treated. He's just too busy finding people for you to kill instead.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm, again, against my will doing this.
Again, none of this is a surprise. This guy is a tyrant. Like, why are you? Of course, he's not going to meet with you, Nehemia.
Yeah.
He's not going to tell his wife what's going on. Like, no. I mean, I appreciate that Nehemia is trying. I'm not trying to take that away from her at all, but it's just, again,
it's frustrating to reread.
She's very accusatory at Celaena and a lot of blaming of Celaena. And yeah, maybe there's more Celaena could be doing. Nehemia is not wrong. It's just, it's kind of harsh and sad. It's not like it's an enjoyable experience for Celaena.
But it is like you said, it's accusatory. It's kind of like when you go back to Nehemia saving Celaena at the duel, she kind of is shitty to her about it. Of like, yeah, I had to save you. I'm sorry.
Again, but there's also that moment, like if you guys communicated more, there's more that Celaena could potentially tell you.
Yeah.
You guys could work towards, but you're both holding things back.
It's just like Nehemia's desperate to save her people. It's a sucky situation all around for everyone except for the king and Duke Barrington.
Well, and you can look at Celaena and potentially say she's being very selfish because it makes things harder on her, but
Mhm.
she's also been trying to scrape by for years now. She's been through some really awful experiences,
And
and
she's
I'm
18. I know that it's like a hard 18, but if I
yeah.
go back to like me at 18, like I'm not saving anybody.
I'm not in charge of myself at 18. I'm still like, "Dad, I need money for Starbucks." Like, I am not a big kid, and she's been through some brutal things that I don't think she's just trying to survive. I don't think she's quite at that point yet, but she has just crawled out of that. Like, she's just gotten out of Endovier. She's trying to, like, figure out where her future goes, and I just
And it's always first thing in the morning. Like they get together literally the crack of dawn, and Nehemia is asking about like, when are we gonna act?
yeah.
Well,
I guess when does it become, okay, are we doing more than just gathering information? Like,
right.
what's your plan here? Are
And
you gonna
Celaena
help or are you
doesn't
gonna
have an
hurt?
answer for that. Like, I don't know. We could go we've talked about this so much. I see both sides. It's very frustrating. And
Yeah.
Nehemia just drops the stick and walks away, which Fleetfoot is fucking devastated about that stick not being thrown.
That's what we're here for.
Like Nehemia and is like disappointed Fleetfoot as much as Celaena in that moment because Selena's watching her only friend walk away from her and she knows like think of how that would feel. You have one friend, they're disappointed in you on like such a big level and they're just walking away.
Well, and again, Selena is potentially in a position where she can do a lot to help. So I can understand why Nehemia is like, I am putting my life on the line, trying to gather information and trying to do more to help. And Selena does not, I guess, from the outside seem like that. But
Mhm.
Selena is emotionally not like on steady footing.
Yeah.
Like,
And she is doing a lot more than you know about. And it sucks that you think so little of me that you're not assuming that I actually am doing.
yeah. And I mean, again, maybe there is more Selena could be doing, but she's not a horrible person. And it just feels like Nehemia is very like black and white. Like, oh,
Yes.
okay, you're not, then I guess you're not anything. You're not doing
Mhm.
anything helpful. But also, why is all this and Elena's mysterious evil sitting on Selena's shoulders?
It's a lot, like, that's very heavy, so, of course, shopping montage.
Yes.
Celaena's got that blood money to burn.
And our queen is, well, she's the queen of disassociating,
Chapter 4 opens with Chaol and Celaena running.
just like old times.
Chaol is struggling to keep up because Celaena is nimble as a stag.
Interesting.
Interesting.
He's struggling to deal with her, quote, work trips
He
too.
would love the trad wife trend.
He would be such a big supporter of that. Like, not in a hateful way, that's just
Yeah,
like
not I don't think that
I don't think he
I
means
don't
like
wanna
that's
be
where
too hard on Chaol because even in my reread, I think that I go too hard on him a lot.
I know I did a couple episodes ago because I don't think Kale's a bad guy at all. I think this is
No.
just what he is comfortable with.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's trying to say she can't do more. It just
He's
he
growing,
likes
but
it.
there's growing pains. Like he's learning, but it doesn't happen overnight.
He is a very solid and loyal guy,
Mhm.
but he
Not exceedingly handsome.
the growth is slower.
Mhm.
But, somewhere along the way with these work trips, he's really begun to care whether she comes back or not.
It's like a very sweet red flag. Like a small red flag about him being so it's just kind of it's giving when you have a friend with kids and she's like, "I need to ask my husband if he'll babysit." It's
Ugh.
not babysitting if it's his kid,
Yeah.
but it's very like we said, trad, like traditional values that he thinks he doesn't like her going off without him.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work for her. Like she is independent.
Also, please add that to his PTSD from Baby's first kill when he stopped Kane from stabbing Celaena in the back. So he asks, how often do you think about the people you've killed?
And it's not in a judgy way for once, because I think in book one, if he had asked that, it would have been like, do you even think about them?
Yeah.
But Chaol is in his feelings about it. I'll never forget the people I've killed, she answers. It's kind of like we have in our notes app, like the people we've slept with. I think that is just girlhood.
I know people are like, you have a list. I'm like, look, they're gone, but they're not forgotten. Okay.
Is I will remember you. Like imagine we
Whole
put the little
montage.
pictures.
Oh my God. I mean, Chaol will never forget killing Cain, but Celaena will never forget what he did for her either.
But there's that line again, the one that forces Chaol to take a step back from her. Like he keeps in that moment he crossed the line, but he kind of jumped back over to his side. I was like, because he's comfortable over there.
It's all in his head, because crossing this line could make the king question his loyalty.
The king that's telling her to do all of this. It's just the cognate. What am I thinking of?
Dissonance? Cognitive dissonance?
He's like, I don't know what's going on in his head. That
He'll think if I care about her killing people that I'm not loyal to him. What?
He's having her kill the people.
Wait, is it bad that you care that people are being murdered? Like, I mean, I can understand caring about that. I don't know. He could end up losing his Nepo baby day job.
And if it ever came down to choosing between his king and Celaena, I think we all know which way that would go, but I don't think that he knows yet. Like, I don't think that he's truly accepted which way he would go if it were, okay, you can either stay loyal to the king or you can...
He's not had his first really big test yet.
No.
He surprised himself with killing Cain, but he hasn't reached that point yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the Dorian of it all, that blue-eyed stare.
You gotta break bro code or be Eskimo brothers or be in a throuple. I don't care which.
Just make some moves.
After their run, they weave around the castle gardens where more and more ladies keep finding excuses to be right around the time Chaol takes his outer layers off to reveal the sweat-drenched shirt. Ooh, it's clinging to his body.
Ooh.
And he's like, I would be peeling it off. Who's not excessively handsome?
That's what I thought.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder if in the first book she wanted him to be like like very plain, nothing that special, so that when she gets to know him, it's that much more special that she chooses him over Dorian, because it was like whatever she sees on the inside.
Well,
but it's like, oh, he is attractive.
I wonder if part of it is because Dorian is so pretty that, like, in, I guess, not contradiction, but like, what's what I'm looking for? Differently, he is not pretty, he's masculine. So it's not like he's not good looking, it's just a very different type of good looking. Yeah. So it's really working for her, especially with the, sweat drenched muscles. Yeah. Like, don't hate it. Chaol asks if Celaena is going into Rifthold today to spy on Archer, and when she says yes, he offers to help.
That's an ick of him being like, can I go?
I mean, also the fact that you want to help, I'm like, don't you look down on the fact that I'm having to do this? I'm confused. Right. I mean, even if she doesn't need his help, he thought that, maybe she'd want to
stick a finger up his butt and whistle Dixie.
Is
that what Chaol wants?
God, I almost kind of could see that.
It always is the masculine guys that are more like into it.
Straight-laced. I'm like,
That won't ask for it, but then are not going to stop it.
Yeah. He doesn't really get to finish the thought because Dorian and some blonde roll up.
And a blonde man, and you know how we feel about we don't trust them.
Chaol stiffens.
Chaol was probably already stiff, if I had to guess.
Dorian introduces Roland, Dorian's cousin from Mia, to
Meh. I read that in my head as meh.
Meh. To Lady Lillian.
Roland's voice is pleasant enough, but something in it gives Celaena pause. And she has very good instincts. I mean, you don't become Adolin's assassin with all of her training without being able to get a very quick feel of people.
Yeah.
And he smiles too smoothly. Like, he's too smooth.
It's very oily.
And he's blonde.
Yeah.
So.
What sort of work do you do for my uncle?
I bury the king's opponents where nobody will ever find them. I just picture her saying this with, like, big smile on her face.
Something to try to scare him a little bit. Roland just LOLs. He's heard about the king's champion.
Which is surprising because everyone else in the castle, like, I guess people now know.
But also, like, Maya is not like a big territory. So, like, you're not overly important. So how do you know?
Right.
But he's actually there to join the king's council.
Which is news to Chaol and to Dorian.
Who's already on the council.
Isn't everything?
Let's bless them. That's so true. Dorian watches as Chaol leads Celaena away, his hand on the middle of her back.
And more importantly, he watches Celaena not shake it off, which is very, like, she's not one to be led, you know? Right. So it's like important that she's allowing him to lead.
Yeah. Dorian never liked Roland, but Chaol hated him because 3 years ago, Chaol punched Roland so hard that Roland blacked out.
Because they're the real enemies to lovers.
I'd watch.
Dorian hasn't worked up the nerve to ask why his father has appointed Roland to his council. Meh. is small, prosperous, but holds no real political power. So again, it's like out of all of the options for the council, like why this guy? I mean, I know he's related. Like maybe he just wanted more people from his family,
He's
but
also very young. So like
well, they don't even have a standing army. Why are we
what do you bring to the table?
right?
Dorian is pulled from his thoughts with Roland's questions about Celaena. Where did she come from? Is she for your father's personal use, or do other councilmen also employ
I
her?
mean, you've been here for less than a day. First of all, fuck off. But who do you have to kill? Like,
It's
it really is like, is she like for everyone's use? Can I
honestly,
send her after somebody?
when he asked it, I kind of read it in like a pervy way. I was like, are you asking to use her or
Ew.
like, yeah,
But he's attractive. That's what sucks.
yeah, but he's also a playboy. So I'm just like, what do you want, Roland?
Yeah, but we would have been the lady that we find out later
We're
that hooked up
available
with
to
him.
whoever. Yeah. Roland is a pain in the ass. He's a brat, but he's harmless, isn't he?
Celaena returns from her shopping montage with books and dresses and jewelry
Oh, that's so
and
me.
Dorian sitting in her foyer.
Hello. Aren't friends allowed to visit each other?
I mean, you said you wanted to be my friend, so be my friend. That's what Dorian is saying. Tell me about the books you're reading. Eat with me. Play games with me.
That makes me so
It makes
sad.
me so
Like
sad.
she hurts his feelings and he still is trying to like be her friend. He's sweet
He's
Dorian.
so sweet. She brushes him off though, like she's been doing for 2 full months, and he asks, "Do you want me to fight for you? Is that it?" I think that line is one of my favorite from the entire series.
Really?
Yeah, I
It just
really like that line. I think it sums up Dorian.
it just made me sad because she's like, I just want you to leave me alone.
That that's really brutal. I
It
know
is.
she's like I think she thinks she's protecting herself and she's protecting Dorian, but her honestly, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Well, and
I think that Sarah just wanted to develop what was going on between Celaena and Chaol, but it doesn't make sense to me.
we know how brutal the king is. It's wild that Dorian doesn't think that's a problem
Mhm.
because if he starts acting like he's close to Celaena, even if it's not sexual, the king is going to take things away from you. I don't know
Yeah.
why you don't see that after all the death he's already caused. So, like, Dorian's not even looking out for himself. He does not see it. So, I can see Celaena trying to keep it from getting too close, not necessarily for sexual reasons, but just to protect Dorian from
I mean,
being
the king
hurt.
didn't seem to care during the tournament when they were like hanging out every single night, you know?
Well, that we know of.
Yeah.
But I also think the king didn't expect her to win. So, what would it matter? And
I
now
just
that she's there, it's like, ugh.
I hate how harsh she is. Like he is our baby girl. Don't talk to him like that.
Well, as
Doesn't have to be so
As
harsh.
we learned from reading this series, again, nobody really communicates well with each other. These
Mhm.
are things she could easily have just discussed with Dorian and he could handle
Instead, she's
himself
like, "Leave me
differently.
alone."
It's like they make decisions for him without talking to him about why
Yeah.
they're doing things.
Well, he lost his 2 best friends.
Yeah,
You know? Like that sucks.
I need both of you guys. So later on a rooftop in a nice part of Rifthold, we find Celaena watching Archer Finn.
It's mostly him making Uber Eat this dick deliveries because our boy is an entrepreneur.
Woo. The previous 2 appointments were an hour each, but he's been in the house across the street for 2 hours.
It's been so long since Celaena has done something like this in Rifthold. It has her in her feelings.
It feels like she never left, like she'll look over her shoulder and find Sam Cortland beside her.
And we will find out about Sam. We're doing Assassin's Blade after this, and we're going to get a lot of backstory on Sam and Arobin. And I'm rereading right now, and I'd forgotten so much of that story.
Okay. I haven't
And
read it yet, so I'm interested
well,
to
and
get
it
to
starts
it.
with like the pirate lord, and then it goes into the healer. Like it's a couple of novellas stuck together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. But it's been over a year and a half since Celaena lost Sam and her freedom. And somewhere in this city, the answers are in this city, the people that she can find out what happened. But
I mean, it's just their answers that she's not quite ready to face
Mhm.
because they're not going to be good. It's like whatever's going on with Rebels and the King.
Exactly. The door to the townhouse finally opens and Archer swaggers out and he's whisked away in his carriage. And we learned in Bridgerton what goes on in those carriages.
Yeah, who's in there? Just throw on some Mr. Worldwide. Celaena returns to the glass castle, but not to her rooms. She's in Chaol's Mojo Dojo Casa house because it's cozy.
It's cozy, but when she describes it, it's literally like every guy's apartment. It's
Yeah.
like there's one bookshelf, there's a desk, and then there's a bed.
And like
And
maybe
she's
one
like, I
chest of
like
drawers.
it. And Chaol doesn't seem to mind. Like her being in his room at least. Tell me again why you're going to so much trouble when you could just shoot Archer.
Oop, I thought we hated
I
murder.
thought we hated murder, but he's like, wait a minute, because she's kind of, it's a very relationship thing to do at the end of your day to kind of, this is what happened to me today. And
Yeah.
so she fills him in on, not everything, but on some things. And he's like, couldn't you just shoot him?
But also, I think he's starting to show little signs of jealousy, even if you want to admit it to
Yes.
himself, because he's like, why are you trailing a very handsome man that you already know? Like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
She says that she's trailing him versus just killing him to get as much info as possible about this alleged group of rebels.
Then she asks why Chaol hates Roland, and he's like, did you see him? Have you seen his blonde hair?
Then she asks if he knows who Rourke Farron is.
And Chaol does know of the crime lord, but he's dead. He and his top 3 men were found murdered 9 months ago, murdered by Wesley, her murder daddy's personal guard, who didn't even really seem to like her very much.
Yeah, so all of that's a bit of a surprise. Celaena knew Arobyn's personal guard, a man who made it very clear that if she were ever a threat to his master, he'd kill her. But on that night that Celaena was betrayed and captured, Wesley had tried to stop her.
It's very interesting.
Like, did he know? Were you protecting me? She thought Arobyn had ordered her locked in her room to keep her from seeking retribution for Sam's death at Farron's hands, but
They caught Wesley a day later, impaled on the iron fence outside Rourke's house, courtesy of Arobyn.
that's
It's
wild.
very, that's like a, I don't know. If I just heard someone talking about that, I'd be like, what? Like, it's a very complicated,
Yeah.
because you're not really sure. You're like, okay, wait. So Wesley worked
But
for
also,
Arobyn.
it's this guy that she thought hated her, and then suddenly he tried to stop her from, at the time, she thought it was just to keep her from going after Rourke Farron, but he was trying to protect her.
Yeah.
So, and then he's dead, so that's a total mind fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Wesley did try to stop Celaena that night to tell her it was a trap, and then he went after Sam's killer. I mean,
But
like,
it's
what the fuck?
something just to stuff back down in that box. She has this box in her mind, like we all do, that she keeps closed. But there's also, like, if Arobyn was the one who betrayed her, when again, we're going to get all into all of that in Assassin's Blade next. And I think she already knows the answers to a lot of these questions. She's just not ready, because then she'd have to do something.
Well, and
If you
it's
don't
also,
accept it, you don't have to go.
she's already been through so many hard things, and this would just be deeper cuts, you know, like, ugh. And also, yeah, she doesn't have to take the next steps if she doesn't have to
Right.
look at it or think about it too much.
It's like, if I don't look at it, it's like when a dog gets in trouble for something, they'd like,
yeah, they're
shoot
like,
up, they're like,
I don't know. What are we looking at? Celaena gives Chaol context. Wesley went after Rourke Farron for revenge after he captured, tortured, and murdered one of her companions when someone hired Sam and Celaena to kill Farron as part of the trap.
And when Celaena went to repay the favor, she was captured and sent to Endovir.
She's clearly carrying a lot of guilt for what happened, and seeing how upset she is, Chaol shares the real reason that he hates Roland. 3 years ago, Chaol found Lithane, a lady of the court that he was in love with, in bed with Roland. She went to Mia with him, and Chaol never learned what became of her.
So that, we just learned the origin story of that chip that Chaol has on his shoulder about being captain of the guard. Like, if you remember the night of the masked ball, she's like, plenty of ladies would dance with you. And he's like, no one wants to be with the captain of the guard.
Oh.
Okay.
Big
Okay.
assumption, but okay. When Chaol asks if Sam had loved her, Celaena says yes, more than anyone had ever loved her.
And we're going to get into all of that. And it's devastating, and it is going to wreck us emotionally, but we have to. Like, it's a part of the story.
We need to understand more where Celaena's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
After Chaol walks Celaena back to her room, she tells him that if that slut chose Roland over you, that makes her the greatest fool who's ever lived.
They have these moments. They're clearly, but they're never like at the same time. Like, they're never having their moments at the same time. And she's in her room for all of 5 minutes. The fucked up clock tower is chiming midnight. I picture it sounding like it's like off-putting, or like,
yeah, like
off
it makes your
kilter,
teeth
just like, ugh,
on edge or something.
She heads to the library for a new book, even though she just bought a bunch of new ones, so she's just like us and our TBRs.
Can't help myself. She turns a corner, and in between the open library doors, she sees a figure wearing a black cloak and the hood over their face.
Which isn't that abnormal. Like, she does that too, but they also start sniffing.
I mean, but it's also late at night, so I'm like, nobody's out.
And
Why do you need to cover your face?
there. And they also, like, they're sniffing and they're moving like smoke and shadow.
Like, everything is a little bit off and weird.
Mm-hmm.
The life alert of Elena going off makes this thing step back into the library.
And Celaena, she mall walks. She's like, I'm not scared. I'm just walking fast. She walks to her room and she's once again thinking about the king's plans because she'll stuff it down and then something will happen and she's like, oh, what are the plans?
I know I'm not that good at stuffing something down,
I am.
especially
I can lock shit away and not think about it for years. I mean, it'll come back up eventually.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty great at that.
I mean, especially if my heart is still racing from what just happened, I'm not good at distracting and
I'm
doing
a
something
scaredy
else.
cat. Like, first of all, you have a secret door to your room. It seems like there's not a lock on that door because everyone's always in there. Like, she's always coming in and someone's just already in there.
Yeah, seriously though.
Even last night, I got home from us having a girls' night and we watched Top Gun Maverick, and the power had gone out. And so I couldn't get into my house because I only had a garage door opener because I'm a fucking idiot. And so I had to sit there for 2 hours, like waiting for the power to come back on. And I didn't want to have my car running the whole time. And so I had the lights off. And like it's a decent neighborhood, but I was so scared. I was like, I'm so scared right now.
She was gonna come stay with me. I didn't not offer her a bed. She just was waiting to see
Well,
if it would get
I need
fixed.
like my pillow that's very flat, that's made for people who sleep on their stomachs. Like I have very specific things that I need when I sleep. So I was like, I'm just gonna wait it out. And of course, when I turned around to leave, that's when it came back on.
Yeah.
But even after I got inside, when I was laying in bed, like the power kept going off again.
Oh no.
And I was so scared. I'm such a scaredy cat.
Well, because you're like, why is this happening? You can't help it. We read way too many stories that you're like, there's something
Well,
weird
and I
going
can't
on.
sleep in total silence.
Yeah,
I
she
didn't
has
have
like a
fan
huge
or
white
anything.
noise set up, earplugs. It's a whole thing.
Ugh. Sorry.
Celaena enters her room right as the lunar eclipse is beginning.
And a lunar eclipse occurs when the sun, earth, and moon align so that the moon passes through the earth's shadow. And in several religions and cultures, it's a bad omen. Like it's always, it's darkness, you know?
Yeah, total darkness. I mean, it just seems like the perfect time to visit the tomb. Something
Exactly.
scary happens. There's an eclipse. Let's do it.
Celaena grabs a candle and starts walking down the forgotten stairs to the three stone archways. The one on the left leads to where she was spying in the Great Hall, like when she had her face up against the crate and she was like, who's there?
How are they laughing without me?
Yeah. And there's the one in the center, which takes her down to the sewers, which AKA is her escape plan. And the one on the right goes to Elena and Gavin's tomb. But back to the one in the middle, going to the sewers, when Chaol met her at the sewers, like I'm assuming she went a different way.
No, I'm assuming it's a different area of the sewers.
Okay, because when I saw that, the first time I read it, I was like, does he know about the secret door? He doesn't.
No, as far as we know, he should not know about the secret door. And I feel like those sewers are like long forgotten because they would show rooms to all of the, or like tunnels to all the other rooms.
Yeah.
And he would immediately have been alarmed that she knows where it is, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess it's different.
The tomb, this area from the tomb, 2 months ago, it's where she used Damaris, Gavin's sword, to kill the Ritterak.
Aren't you going to knock the skull-shaped bronzer knocker ask out loud because it's talking?
What? It's like, I remember reading that. I was like, well, okay.
Aren't you going to knock?
The door knocker can talk, and it's sassy.
Pneumatic?
We're doing really good today.
I feel like I'm having a series of strokes. The door knocker can talk. It's sassy because new magic, while it doesn't work, it hasn't worked in 10 years. The king can't erase old spells made with older powers. Like, I mean, we know word marks work, but it makes you wonder why there aren't other things that you come across in this kingdom.
I guess he's destroyed the things that he knows of, or
or maybe all the doorknobs can talk, but they just keep quiet because they're scared.
I'm not ready for that. That's very like Alice in Wonderland. I got distracted. Where are we? Okay, think about how magic is disappearing when you aren't expecting it, and that could like really fuck some shit up.
Like you're in the middle of showing your friend something stupid that you can do, and then you get stuck that way. And we're gonna meet a character later that it really fucked with, like something like that did happen.
Yeah, well, because she references like that Fae could sometimes switch forms, and some of them were in other forms when the magic hit, and that's where they were left that we know of. So interesting. Ancient spells like the one that imbued life to this door knocker can still hold,
and not lifelike, like lifelike.
Life?
Because it doesn't breathe, it just has consciousness. And because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, someone like turned a person into a door knocker. But this is just a door knocker that has consciousness, like that fully conscious baby. And it was put there by King Brannon himself to watch over his daughter Elena's tomb. So it's interesting, like Brannon, which he was Fae, but outlived his daughter.
It's also, I'm just thinking, it's very interesting that he put a door knocker to watch over. It's not like it has power. It's not like he can protect or do anything. He's
It's
just
just
there to
sassy.
watch and see, which
Yeah.
is weird.
And he's been there an entire book and he didn't say a fucking
I
word.
know. He kept quiet until he thought she'd seen enough weird shit to accept his existence.
It introduces itself. I don't want to misgender this door knocker. I don't know if they say him or her or it, but it introduces itself as Mort. What's your name?
Celaena.
Mort's like, whatever you gotta tell yourself, girly pop. I mean, Mort sees what's going on. Well, first of all, Mort's been privy if it is there. It's heard everything going on between Celaena and Elena.
Mort seems to know a whole
Celaena
lot.
and Elena.
Well, it also seems to know a whole lot that didn't happen in that tomb. It knows what's happening in the outside world.
Yeah.
So, like, that's an interesting side note.
I wonder if Elena just talks to it.
It's very, I don't know. There's something to the magic. It's very sentient.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's also wild that thanks to the eclipse, the tomb is extra dark and empty.
Elena burnt herself out helping Celaena, so for now, all you're going to get is her out of office. Annoyed, Celaena's attention lingers on the words at Elena's feet. Ah, time's rift.
It's very fairy tale having talking furniture and a riddle like Feyre under the mountain.
I stand
Or Beauty and the
by
Beast.
thinking that I could have solved that one. Like, I questioned myself, so maybe I would have talked myself out of it, or I would have just been too scared being under the mountain. But imagine Amarantha's face if, like, she gave you the riddle and you were like, love. And then it's, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you can leave. Like, which way's the exit?
Well, I was going to say, I have a lot of things whenever we try to solve riddles, like something will come to my mind. And I'm like, yeah, it's totally this. And then, like, it's something totally different. So I could see myself being way behind the wrong answer.
Well, when I first read
really
it, I was
regretting it.
like, it's love because, I mean, first of all, I mean, the riddle, if you listen to it, you're like, okay, it's definitely love.
Yeah.
And it's very like a fairy tale type answer.
Yeah, but everybody's lives are on the line. It's scary.
I know. And then we would have missed all the
the
learning
whole...
that she doesn't know how to read.
The words, time's rift, have been carved onto that sarcophagus by Brannon, Elena's Fae father, and the first king of Terrasen himself.
So Brannon was Fae and the first king of Terrasen, which is where Celaena is from, and his daughter Elena was married to the first king of Alderland, Gavin.
The tomb is Uno reversed. Stars carved on the floor, trees and flowers on the ceiling, and the walls are etched with word marks.
Well, if we only knew a bitch who knew word marks.
So many questions. And somebody that told the truth. We still don't know how Cain learned word marks either, or what the king knows of them.
And Celaena is still in her delusional, like, thank God the king doesn't know word marks era. Girl.
Right. Elena isn't in the tomb, but she has a message for Celaena.
Nancy Joe, this is Alexis. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I'm calling to let you know how disappointed I am in your story. There's many things I read in there that are false, like you saying I wore 6-inch Louboutin heels to court with my tweed skirt when I wore 4-inch little brown BB shoes. That's my favorite voicemail of all time. What was that? Bling ring? I don't remember what the actual
that was a while
show
ago.
Was called, but yeah, Alexis Nyers.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Throwback. Not ready for whatever fresh hell this message will bring, Celaena takes her time, wasting time. She walks around the tomb, looking at the suit of armor and Damaris, the legendary sword of Gavin, on display. Some legends claim that when Gavin wielded Damaris, he would only see the truth, and that was why he'd been crowned king.
And we happen to know a bitch whose entire personality is truth.
I mean, and Truth-Teller.
Which Vesper is roasted as over not being able to use properly.
I wonder if Truth-Teller could be similar to Damaris.
Well, we do learn a lot more about that sword, and it also changes appearances, which I can't tell if that's intentional or a plot hole.
Ooh, or if what it's used for changes its appearance.
Right, and it also it has word marks on it, and Truth-Teller has Illyrian runes, which I think could possibly be word
swirls
marks.
and whirls.
Swirls, whirls, and swirls.
The armor still has scratches on its golden front, perhaps from the fight with Erewhon, the Dark Lord who led an army of demons and the dead against the continent when the kingdoms had been little more than warring territories.
But don't forget about Celaena. She was a warrior too, but her armor is missing. Like she's kind of missing from the official history. Again, like Thea and countless other women are just kind of, they're the parts they play, they're left out.
Downsized. Mort delivers Elena's message. If I could leave you in peace, I would.
Let's go, like, full stop. Let's just just leave me in peace.
I mean, like, yeah, thanks. Why not? But you have lived your life aware that you will never escape certain burdens. Whether you like it or I have, like, again, questions.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like it or not, you are bound to the fate of this world. As the king's champion, you're now in a position of power and you can make a difference in the lives of many.
But counterpoint, what if I don't want to make a difference? But also, can you give this speech to Nehemia?
Yeah.
About how I need to stay close to the king?
This just goes back to, like, why is everything on my shoulders? Cain and the Ritterak were just the beginning of the threat to Aurelia. There is a far deadlier power poised to devour the world. Like that, devour the world. Jeez.
Yeah, casual. Devour the world to me does sound like a black hole.
Yeah.
Which connects back to Crescent City.
Yeah. And back to fairy tale rules, there will be clues. Signs Celaena has to follow. Refusing to kill the king's targets is only the first and smallest step.
That's a little diminishing what she's
thanks
been
for
doing.
belittling the work I'm putting in.
And that's only the first and smallest step. And think about how hard it's already been. And I would be having this thought too. If Celaena is so powerful and knows all this shit already, why are you making me do this?
It's not that hard to answer some questions for me. But it is your fate and your responsibility.
Again, more evidence that we don't really know Celaena. Not really and not yet. Do we? And it's weird because we're in her head, but it also makes sense because she's stuffed so much down.
Yeah.
She's not even.
It gives us, the reader, so many more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is this random assassin responsible for so much more?
Yeah, this random 18-year-old assassin whose parents were killed. Why is it on her?
Celaena half-heartedly says she doesn't believe in fate, but then what led you down here on Samhain to see Damaris and learn it was here, so when the time came, you knew how to kill the Ritterak?
Okay, but if I had never found the secret door, I wouldn't have come across the Ritterak, and I would not have needed the sword.
That you know of. Celaena has a little fit, which is understandable, and it's just a lot to put on one person.
Well, one person who has already lived such a hard life, like, she has never, ever been able to relax.
I mean, like, again, I was joking, but me at 18, I was like, Daddy, I need more dining dollars to spend at Starbucks. Like,
yeah.
We aren't the same.
It's a lot to put on
it's so much.
One girl.
When Mort says Celaena has to discover where the king's power comes from and what he plans to do before it's too late, she's like, it is too late. It's been too late since 10 years ago.
Right.
Where was Celaena then? When there were real heroes around, when the kingdoms fell one by one.
And Mort's saying that Celaena has told it about her past and very judgy. Like, are you that selfish? A coward? Okay, door knocker.
Yeah, what are you standing on?
Yeah, what are you helping? What are you doing to help the world?
Why are you sitting back judging me? I mean, at least you can't follow us. She stomps back up the stairs.
Can she wake up in the morning feeling like Caltais because she has a headache?
Oh, God.
She's not on crack.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. She meant what she said to Mort last night. She's not doing it. Any of it.
Psych. Celaena knows that whatever the king is up to, it is bad. She has to find the source of his power. But Celaena didn't say anything about destroying it or facing the king. So if you take anything away from this show, it's that do the job you're hired for and nothing else.
Okay, so uncover the king's plans or power or whatever and get closer to Archer to figure out a way to fake his death.
I know a way we can get closer to Archer. Send him a Venmo and an address.
If Archer really is in on some secret plan against the king, maybe he can answer some of her questions.
So it's time for a meet cute.
And she lets Chaol join.
I know, he's like, ooh.
I get to do something. Mostly because he's been begging to play spy. So they stand outside the Willows.
Which is basically the Rifthold version of the Ivy in Los Angeles. Like, anybody who's anybody is there.
Including Archer.
They could have taken a carriage, but Celaena had wanted to walk through the city to see the city on the arm of the captain of the guard, which is really cute when you think about like how hard he is on himself. Like, no one's going to want to be with the captain of the guard, but she's
trying to spend some time with him.
But if you think that's fun, you should see the city on the dick of the crown prince.
What a visual. Okay. There aren't members of the Willows, so they're pretending they aren't members of the Willows, so they're pretending to be waiting on a table outside. She sees Archer coming out and conveniently runs into him.
Lena?
We love a good nickname.
I actually do love a good nickname. Like, especially like all these every series we read, I feel like there's some kind of like the one I'm reading right now, he calls her Wildcat.
Okay.
I like
I
that.
don't hate it.
Chaol doesn't, especially coming from the most beautiful man in the world, doesn't love the nickname.
I just thought it was he calls Violet Violence.
Yeah,
That's
Violence. There's
sexy
a lot
too.
of them that it's a nickname, but yeah, Chaol's not a fan of this
Yeah,
nickname.
why are you guys teasing each other? The last time they'd seen each other, Celaena was 13, but she's not 13 anymore.
Mm-mm.
She's barely 18. And Archer is now the top male courtesan in Rifthold and a formidable opponent when Celaena was training at the Assassin's Keep.
He asks how Celaena got out, and she explains that she works for the king now.
She notes suspicion or fear in Archer's eyes. Is it because she works for a tyrant or because he really is a rebel?
When Archer asks if Arabin knows that Celaena's out, she's like, of course he does. Like, he has eyes everywhere. But again, it makes you wonder, like, why he hasn't tried to talk to her, meet up with her.
Yeah,
It's
or why
really,
she hasn't approached him either.
yeah. And Archer does apologize about what happened to Sam. And she's like, can we change the subject? Like, she gets very uncomfortable.
I know it's like, yeah, it's difficult. I know as a little brat when you trained at the keep, but do you want to have dinner with me tomorrow?
And he checks yes.
And
Even
Chaol,
knowing what all happens, I'm like, ooh, we're
I know.
having dinner.
And then Chaol checks no. He knows not all of Celaena's blushing is acting. And Lena?
This is the one time that Chaol is happy that she's going to have to assassinate someone. Like, he's watching this interaction. He's like, whatever, she's going to kill you anyway.
It's so funny and so petty. Okay, Chaol. She plans to spend the rest of the day following Archer from dick appointment to dick appointment, but the king orders her to assist with guard duty at a state dinner that night.
And there are a million ways that Celaena could get out of this, but Elena did just tell her to stay close to the king. So she's like, fine.
The dinner is in the great hall where Chaol stations her by a pillar near the glass patio doors.
And at the center table are the king and queen, Duke Parrington, Roland, and Dorian. Every time I say Roland, it's like Roland.
Chaol is at the column closest to the king's chair.
Because he has like mall cop vibes. Like he's just doing too much. Because right now, the biggest threat to everyone in the world is the guy that you're protecting. Who are you protecting him from?
Seriously. Once the king and queen bounce, everyone's buttholes unclench and they start loosening up.
Dorian and Roland are being little fuck boys, and Dorian is smiling, but surely he doesn't actually like his cousin. I mean, it's just, but you really haven't left him with a choice.
I know.
You've taken away all of his friends.
She's really annoyed with him, but also like, who else is he supposed to hang out with? You and Chaol?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't imagine you really liked a girl and the best friend ended up with her. You're just gonna go hang out with them?
Also, she told you to leave her alone.
Exactly.
You're trying to be friends. So like, okay.
And Celaena is thinking like she can't help but still care about Dorian. She ended things romantically. I'm sorry, you ended things with a hard period.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just disappear. And she's also wondering, like, why didn't Elena approach Dorian for all of these tasks?
I mean, that is a good question in that it's his own father causing the problems. Like,
Yeah,
he
but
could do more, but
I don't. I'm not so
has
sure.
he ever killed anybody?
No.
Is he qualified to do the hard work? Like, come on. Also, can you imagine Dorian at this point in the book getting a to-do list from a ghost and a door knocker?
He would simply pass away. He would pass out.
Or facing Cain in the Ritterrack? Like, come on.
We just have to pray that Dorian will be a better king than his father, which really won't take much. But again, we don't know when that's going to be. Like, she's having this thought of like, well, no matter what happens with the king, Dorian will eventually be king and he'll be better, right? It's like,
I mean,
a lot can
hopefully.
happen between now and then.
I mean, and Dorian, by the way, is well aware that Celaena's watching him. Which, again, if I was him, I'd be like, what do you want?
I would look over, what?
You told me to leave you alone. Stop looking at me. Stealing glances at him all night, but not just him. She's also looking at Chaol, too.
But it's not the same look. Her face softens when she looks at Paul Blart.
Paul Blart Mall Cop. It seems Roland's mother came along with him to find the young lord a bride as well.
Celaena is so mad in the dungeons right now because she's perfect for the job. Like, she was not at the level to be with Dorian, and now
she could have been all over Roland, though.
I'm like, this was such a missed opportunity for her.
Oh, poor Dorian. He's staring at Celaena, staring at Chaol, and when Celaena and Dorian's eyes meet, there's nothing, not a hint of emotion.
Which she is trained to like not show emotion, but that would be devastating. Because again, it was so abrupt and sudden. from
Yeah.
her, that Dorian is, like, having trouble course
Like,
correcting.
I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I just cut out like this?
And she looks at him expressionless and then goes right back to staring at Chaol. So Dorian's like, "Goodbye.
Mm.
I'm so out of here."
Good for him, though.
But it's also like y'all are in his house technically.
Yeah. 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 So there.
Y'all leave.
Surprisingly, Celaena follows Dorian out and asks what's wrong.
What's wrong is like, how long has this been going on?
Cough. I mean, nothing. Chilling. How are you?
Because he's having like he's inside. Dorian is having a breakdown, but he's trying to be unbothered. He's very demure, very mindful. And he's like, I'm fine.
What's wrong with you?
Celaena knows that things are in fact not chill. Or they kind of are because Dorian's eyes have this cold look.
But again, you don't want to be my friend, so why are you bothering me?
Mhm.
He does his best, Ross Geller, I'm
I'm
fine,
fine.
and keeps walking to the library.
She's just like following him. I don't trust your cousin. Okay. And he's going to use you. What, the same way an assassin from Endovir used me to become King's champion?
Oop.
Mm.
Okay. She didn't ask to be door dashed at the tournament, okay?
Right.
And
She
just
didn't ask for any of this.
and just because you're used to getting what you want.
You don't know what I want because you didn't even give me a chance to tell you. And scene.
I mean, he has her there.
He does, like, they both have good points. She didn't ask to be in the situation, but also she didn't ask anything about Dorian, like how he felt, how he's been feeling.
Well, it gives that series, the Reverse Harem, The Power of Five, that we've
Mhm.
talked about before. One of the characters in it is usually like the affable, funny, joking guy that she plays with. And like,
Ty?
yeah, and she jokes around.
Mhm.
But like when something serious happens, she acts like all surprised. And he's like, you've never taken the opportunity to know me
Right.
deeper or ask me any questions. And then she's like, what's going It's the same thing with Celaena. Like,
Mhm.
why even ask about what's going on with me? You
Yeah.
haven't cared enough to know me that well.
Mhm.
Makes me sad.
And the two-part, Dorian is going to the library and Celaena is going to the dungeons.
Interesting choice. Specifically, she's going to Caltain's cell. She hasn't seen Caltain since the day that she drugged Celaena at the duel 2 months ago, and she'd missed the moment where Caltain was gaslit into taking full responsibility by the Duke.
Celaena had been too busy being carried and kissed and read to by Dorian, which is, again, like, that's all Caltain wanted was
Oh.
that, and then she's just getting drugged, which, I don't know, she's not a character you can feel completely sorry for, but
Well, her actions have not been great, but again, she's another character that we didn't make any effort to get to know beyond the motivations that were so obvious.
she's a villain and a victim.
Yes. Hello, Caltain, she says.
And the chapter ends with Caltain, her black eyes gleaming, replying, "Hello, Celaena."
Ooh, and that's where we're going to pick up next week for chapters 9 through 16.
And we have, so that's the end of the Throne of Glass deep dive portion, but we also have some Fourth Wing news. Rebecca Yaros posted on Instagram that September 17th, we're getting a new Fourth Wing paperback edition. It has sprayed edges, very cute, but it also has a new chapter that's Xaden POV.
Ooh, okay.
I am personally hoping for the night with the lightning. Not, I don't know if I'd rather have like the first kiss or like the night, like with, because there's a couple scenes where there's like lightning involved,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I think that I would love to see what he was feeling
Oh, yeah.
in that moment.
That would be very interesting.
And then I saw It Ends With Us yesterday.
Yeah, we
And
need to hear more about that.
well, I actually really liked it. And I went into it ready to not like it, especially the PR, the marketing has been weird, like the wear your florals and go with your girlfriends, and it's about, domestic violence.
Yeah.
But the movie itself, I thought was really good. It's very close to the books. And it's like, I don't, if you haven't read it, it's like, it's a very authentic look at domestic violence, how it like sneaks up on you and you gaslight yourself. You're not really even sure because a lot of the moments in the movie where Blake gets hit or thrown down or, Lily Bloom gets hit, you're not sure if it was an accident or not
Yeah.
because it happens so fast. Like he burns his hand and, flings back and he hits her on the side of the head, but you can't tell if it's just because he was bringing his hand back too fast. And things like that keep happening. But then, at the end, it's reframed and you see that like it was actually happening. It was just happening so fast.
Wow.
So I think it was really well done. especially the young actors that played the young Lily and Atlas,
Mhm.
they looked so much, especially the one who played like young Blake Lively, looked so much like her in the mannerisms and the voice and everything. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's necessarily one you need to see in the theaters because
Yeah.
I feel like to me, if I'm seeing in the theaters, it's more like big action.
Well, it sounds like it'd still be very heavy.
It
So
is
it would probably be good to see, but it doesn't feel like a joyous event to go with my friends to. It seems
right.
like something I wanna watch, but not like wearing all my flower dresses and girls' night. That
Well,
feels intense.
yeah, and I think that the worst part of the movie for me was the wardrobe. It was just distracting.
Really?
It was yeah, it was really bad, but it
Okay.
was also a lot of it was, like, more expensive pieces that you're like, "Does this really fit Lily Bloom's vibe?" And I wish her hair had been a little more vibrant red, like, I think that they formed the character around Blake instead of Blake forming herself into the character, if that makes
Oh,
sense?
okay.
Because, a lot of times when you watch Blake Lively, she's kind of playing the same character, like, she's Serena, you know?
Yeah, Serena van der Woodsen.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't know what happened on the set that made everyone split or, like and I thought Justin Baldoni did a really great job because he also made you feel sorry for the abuser, like, it's just so nuanced and has so many different layers
Wow.
that he has his own trauma, and then you're wondering, like I don't know. I thought it was really good. I think that it's very close to the book. There were only a couple things I could really point out that I'm like, "This is a little different," but it's a very close adaptation.
Okay.
So I would recommend it. I really liked it, and Colleen Hoover is not my favorite. I'm not a regular romance girly, like, I start reading and I'm like, "Wait,
Where's
no
the
one's fae and
fantasy?
no one's vampires?" But yeah,
But it was
I liked
still
it.
well done.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I now I'm bummed because apparently the next one is not gonna have Justin Baldoni in it. So
Oh,
I don't know what's good and he's not gonna direct, and he did a really good job of making sure that people knew, like, the heavy subject matter,
yeah.
and yeah,
Okay. Well,
so
that brings some questions, but I wasn't that interested in seeing it before.
yeah, it
Just
would be a good I don't not like a girls' night of, like, fun girls' night, but I 2 of my friends, I went with, like, my childhood friends, and they 2 of on both sides, they were crying, which I wasn't, like, that affected, but
okay, but I mean
Mhm.
that's a good review and can like we weren't really sure what to think of it. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing
Well,
that with
because it
us.
got so many it's so negative right now, but it's mostly negative about Blake or about the drama, but the
Yeah.
movie itself, if you didn't know anything that was going on around it, the movie itself is worth watching.
Okay. I mean, that's a good review because there has been so much drama outside of it. It kind of detracts from the actual
Yeah,
storyline.
because she's been promoting her hair care line and, like, Colleen Hoover took her TikTok private, and I've been loving all that drama too,
Yeah.
and, like, those interviews they found where Blake Lively did you watch the one where the interviewer is asking about her little bump,
Mhm.
and then she's like, "Your little bump."
Yeah.
It's just bitchy,
Yeah. It just it's all like detracting from the actual storyline and from the movie.
but she's
So
never struck me as someone that would be really nice, like, if you think that Blake Lively is nice, you weren't on the Gossip Girl message board, and it shows.
yeah, I could see her being catty. She
Yeah.
loves to tell everybody that she's a girl's girl, but like,
Are
are you?
you?
Jinx. Well,
Okay.
thank you for sharing that with us. And we are excited to get back with you guys to discuss this again next week.
Thanks,
Chapters 9
y'all.
through 16. Thanks, guys.